Okay, this is the review for the Unit 5 test. Numbers 1 through 5 are using this diagram right here. And what we are going to do is we have to use this information. It says that these three triangles are all isosceles triangles, meaning two of the sides are congruent. So looking at this diagram, we've got three triangles, and again, we've got this triangle is isosceles, and if the triangle is isosceles, then the base angles are also congruent to each other. Now, if those are congruent, we're going to look at the other triangles. This triangle's segments are also congruent, and the base angles are congruent. And the last one, we have these segments being congruent and these base angles being congruent. So that's the information that's given to us. And the first question asks, what is the measure of AMX? AMX is talking about AMX, that blue angle right there. Well, one thing we should see is that that triangle has the two base angles congruent, so that angle is 72 because these two angles are congruent. So my answer is 72. Okay, the next question says, what's the measure of RAX? RAX is RAX, that light blue angle right there. This one. What's the measure of that? Well, we can see that this angle is congruent to this angle in the triangle, so it's 38 degrees. Now this angle right here, it's the third angle in that triangle that has two base angles of 72. So we figure that out by saying 72 plus 72 is 144, and we subtract 144 from 180, giving us 36. So that angle right there is 36. So in order to find the entire angle, we're going to add 36 plus 38, which gives us an answer of 74A. Okay? Next question. If FXA is 96, so let's get that picture here. FXA, that yellow angle right there, if that's 96, then what is FXM? So the whole angle is 96, but what is this angle right here? Well, if the whole thing is 96, then if we subtract 96 minus 72, if you can read that, it leaves us with 24. That means that angle, FXM, is equal to 24, which is A. Okay, looking at number 4. Getting to where I can see it all. And we'll put 5 in there too. Same situation. Let me change the color here. It's getting kind of... what is XFM? XFM. So we're talking about this angle right here. This angle, we just found out that this angle in here was 24, which means this angle right here is also 24. So basically we have a triangle that has 24, 24, and we're looking for this angle right here. So what we do is we take 24 and 24 and add it up, which is 48. Subtract it from 180, which gives us 132. And that's the measure of XFM, 132. C. Okay, number 5, we're looking for the measure of angle FMR. Well, the measure of FMR is this angle right here. We're talking about the entire angle. So we're talking about all three of these angles. Remember, we found angle 24. We said this was 72, and that third angle was 38. So to find that, we're going to add 24 plus 72 plus 38. And when we do, we get 134 as our answer. Okay? All right, moving on. Number 6. Which three lengths cannot be the lengths of the sides of a triangle? Well, you'll remember that we take the two smallest sides, for instance, on choice A, 6 plus 9, it has to be greater than the third side, which in this case it is. But remember, we're looking for the lengths that cannot be the lengths of a triangle. So let's look at B, the next one. The two smallest sides are 11 and 19, which is 30. So yes, here we have 11 plus 19 equals 30. That is greater than 25, so those would be the sides of a triangle. Looking at selection C, 5 plus 11 is 16. Is that greater than 21? No, it is not. That's how we know C is our answer. If you were to look at D, we would know that 11 plus 11 is 22, which is greater than 12, so yeah, that would be a side of a triangle. So no. C would be the one that could not be the length of a triangle. All right, number 7, we're looking at this one. It's very similar to the previous question. Whoops. We'll look at 7 here. We have an isosceles triangle. There's no picture, so I would recommend you draw a picture. It's isosceles, meaning the base angles are congruent. It has a base that's 9.6 units, so that length is 9.6. Now, the question says, what is the shortest possible length of sides? Well, the shortest length would be 4.7. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend this is 4.7 and see if that could be the case. So 4.7 plus 4.7 equals 9.4. Is that greater than 9.6? It is not, so that would not work. C would not be the shortest side possible. So now we're going to try 4.9. 4.9 plus 4.9 is 9.8. Is that greater than 9.6? Yes, it is, which means 4.9 would be the shortest possible length of that side. Okay, number 8. This one is hard to read, so we're going to go ahead and zoom in and clarify some things. At least it's hard to read on mine. Hopefully you can read yours. So we've got this triangle, and it is J, H, F. This side is 2x minus 1. This side is 3x minus 8. And this angle is 4y minus 4. All right. So the question asks, or the question tells us that it's an equilateral triangle, which means all the sides are congruent. Find x and y. Well, what this also means is that the angles are all congruent as well. And if they're all congruent, we should know that they're all 60 degrees. It's just a fact The angles of an equilateral triangle or equiangular triangle are 60 degrees. So to solve for x, this side is congruent to this side, which means 3x minus 8 is equal to 2x minus 1. Subtract 2x. Add 8. And x equals positive 7, which eliminates A and C as an answer choice. So now, notice that this is an angle measure for this angle right here, where we see that it's 60 degrees, so 4y minus 4 equals 60 degrees. Add 4 to both sides, we get 4y equals 64. Divide by 4, and y equals 16, which leaves me with B as my answer. Okay, let's look at number 9. Again, let's kind of relabel this triangle since it's hard to read. Okay, so the question gives us the information that RT bisects US. That means this segment bisects into two congruent segments, which means this side is also 3x, or we could say that the whole thing is 6x. Well, it's also equilateral, so all the segments are congruent to each other. So 4x plus 8 is equal to 6x. Subtract 4x from both sides. Divide by 2. And x equals 4, which eliminates B and D. Now for y, we have 5y here. Now, this angle is half of this angle, but we said that in an equilateral triangle, they're all 60 degrees. So if it's half of that angle, it's actually 30 degrees. So we have 5y equals 30 degrees divided by 5, and y equals 6, which is C. X equals 4, y equals 6. All right, now we have this question. This question says that this external angle is equal to the sum of these remote interior angles. So to set up our equation, 26x plus 20 equals 19x minus 15 plus 9x plus 25. Sorry, I ran out of space there. So let's solve that. 26x plus 20 equals 19x plus 9x is 28x. Negative 15 plus 25 is plus 10. So subtract 26x. We get 2x plus 10 equals 20. Subtract 10 from both sides, and we end up with 2x equals 10. Divide by 2, and we get x equals 5. Be careful, x equals 5 is an option, but that is not the answer here, because remember that the question says, what's the measure of ABD? Well, there's ABD, so we're talking about this angle. So we've got to replace x with 5. And when we do that, we get 130 plus 20, which is 150 degrees. So that is the correct answer. C is our answer. All right, on 11, which of the following, this is the same one. We're just checking to see if they can be lengths for triangles. Add the two smallest ones. 5 plus 6 is 11. That is greater than 9, so that one works. 4 plus 8 equals 12. Is that greater than 12? Well, it's equal to, but not greater than, so that one will not work. And then the other one, 9 plus 8 is, 7 plus 8 is 15, which is not greater than 17, so that one won't work. So my answer, 1, is the only one that would work for the sides of a triangle. Okay, so here we're going to draw an isosceles triangle. It says that the vertex measure, remember the base angles are congruent, these are base angles down here. This is the vertex angle up here, the one that is not congruent. It says that the vertex angle is 44. How do we find out what the base angles are? Because that's what it's asking. Well, we take 180 and we subtract 44. We get 136. That means these two angles have to add up to equal 136, but they're congruent, so we can say 136 divided by 2 equals 68. That means each angle is 68. So what's the measure of my base angle? 68 degrees, which is B. Okay, next one, very similar. We're going to draw another one, but this time it says that the base angle is 34 degrees. So the base angles are congruent, isosceles triangle. This is 34, which means this is also 34. We're looking for the vertex angle. What's the measure of that angle right there? Well, we have two angles. We can find the third one by adding 34 plus 34, which is 68, and subtracting 68 from 180, which is 112. So that means the vertex angle is 112 degrees. Okay, the next one we have ratios instead of angle measures. Remember this one, all we have to do on this one is take our ratio and multiply it times x. So 6 times x is 6x, 4 times x is 4x, and 8 times x is 8x. Now, when we do that, they all have to add up to have a measure of 180 degrees. Now we just solve for x to see what x equals. We get 18x equals 180. Divide by 18, and we get x equals 10. Now that's not my answer, that just tells me my value for x. Next I have to find out which of these angles was the smallest. Is it going to be 6x, 4x, or 8x? Definitely 4x. So we replace x with 10. 4 times 10 is 40. So my degree measure is going to be 40 degrees, which is B. Okay, 15. It says that Q is equidistant. There is Q. It's the same distance from the angle, the sides that make up the angles. And the only reason it tells us that is that tells us that this ray right here is an angle bisector. It splits the whole angle into two equal angles. Well, this angle is 5x plus 11. This angle is 26. So to solve for x, which is what we're looking for right here, we're going to set those equal to each other. So 5x plus 11 equals 26. Subtract 11. 5x equals 15. Divide both sides by 5, and we get that x equals 3. That's our solution to 15. Okay, number 16. What's the name of the segment? Remember, this one is both perpendicular and it bisects the opposite segment into two congruent segments. It's not coming from the vertex. So this is definitely going to be a perpendicular bisector. Look at the next one. It's coming from the vertex, and it's not doing anything as far as congruent or perpendicular, but it's making these two angles congruent, which means it's an angle bisector. Okay, number 18. This segment is splitting this opposite segment into two congruent segments. That's a median. And then the last one, we have the segment perpendicular to the opposite segment coming from the vertex. That's an altitude. Alright, here we're looking for the range of x values. What we're going to do is we're going to set up three inequalities of all the possible sums that we can get. So we can say 8 plus x has to be greater than 17. We're going to say 8 plus 17 has to be greater than x. And the last one would be 17 plus x is greater than 8. Solve for x, so subtract 8. And x is greater than 9. And then here we get 8 plus 17 is 25, which is greater than x. Subtract 17 from both sides, and we get x is greater than negative 9. Well, if we get a negative, that's the one we're not going to use. And our answer is going to look like this. What number is x larger than? X is larger than 9, so 9 goes here. What number is larger than x? 25 is larger than x, so that answer goes there. And that would be the range of x values for this triangle. Okay, 21. How many triangles above our scalene? Remember, scalene are the ones that have sides that none are congruent. Well, let's label the first one. It's got two congruent sides, so it's isosceles. The next one has three sides that are congruent. That's equilateral. All sides are congruent. This one, we have to find the second side. If you use the Pythagorean theorem, or you just remember that that's a perfect triple, that's a 6, 8, 10 triangle. None of them, so that's a scalene. The next one is isosceles because of these two marks saying that they're congruent. And then the last one are all three different lengths. So how many are scalene? 2. How many are isosceles? In this case, we also had 2. And the last one, how many have exactly 8? Are exactly 8 units long? Well, that one was 8, so that's 1. That one's 8, so that's 2. We found this one to have 1, 3. If this is congruent, this is 6, and if we use the Pythagorean theorem, we end up with radical 72 over here. So that's not 8, so that one does not have one that's 8. And then we have an 8 right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles that have one side exactly 8 units long. Okay, number 22. We're looking at a triangle. This one's not too difficult. We should be able to do this one. It's got angle measures of 44 and 75 and K. What is the missing angle? Well, remember, 75 plus 44 is 119. Take 119, subtract that from 180, and you get 61 degrees, which is the measure of angle K. Okay, 23, we're looking at angles 1, 2, and 3. It gives us side lengths. The ones between 1 and 2 is 12 centimeters. Between 2 and 3 is 9. And 3 and 1 is 15. So remember, we're listing from smallest to largest. The smallest angle is opposite the shortest side. The shortest side is 9. So the angle opposite 9 is 1. So angle 1 is my shortest side. 12 is my next shortest side. It's opposite angle 3. And 15 is my last side. It's opposite angle 2. Now that leaves us with 4. Remember, 4 is an external angle, and 4 is equal to the sum of 1 and 2, which means 4 is greater than angle 1. 4 is also greater than angle 2, which means if 2 is right here, 4 has to be larger than that. So 4 is definitely my largest angle. Okay, 24. We're given 3 points of a triangle, and we're using the distance formula to find the distance. Once we find the distance, we'll be able to know what type of triangle it is, whether it's isosceles, scalene, equilateral. Because if 2 of the distances are the same, it's isosceles. If 3 are the same, it's equilateral. If none are the same, it's scalene. So the work comes as we try and set this problem up. So let's do that. We'll do AB first. So we'll just plug that into the distance formula. We'll go 7 minus 2 squared plus 2 minus negative 2 squared. 7 minus 2 is 5 squared plus 2 minus negative 2. That becomes plus 2, which is 4 squared. And I realized I did something wrong. That should not be a 2 here. And it's not erasing for some reason. Let's rewrite this. We should have had 7 minus 5, which would left us with 2 squared. I wrote that wrong. So 2 squared would be 4. 4 squared would be 16. That's equal to the square root of 20. So AB has a distance of radical 20. We'll just leave it unsimplified for now. We'll do BC now. BC would be 7 minus 3 squared plus 2 minus 5 squared. We end up with 4 squared plus negative 3 squared. 4 squared is 16. Negative 3 squared is 9, which is 25. And we'll just leave it like that, even though we know it simplifies. And the next one, let's give ourselves some room. We'll do AC over here. Again, AC, so we're looking at 5 minus 3 squared plus negative 2 minus 5 squared. 5 minus 3 is 2 squared. Negative 2 minus 5 is negative 7 squared. We end up with 4, and negative 7 squared is 49. 4 plus 49 is radical 53. Are any of these the same? None of those lengths are the same. Therefore, the type of triangle is scalene. Okay, number 25. Let's look at that one. So on this one, we're looking for x and y. The first one I'm going to look for is I'm going to look for y, because I notice that these two angles formed by those two segments form a linear pair. So 2y plus 4y minus 36 equal 180 degrees. So 6y minus 36 equals 180. Add 36 to both sides, and we get 216. When I divide by 6, I get 36 as my answer. So y equals 36. Now once I do that, I can find the value for x because this is a triangle, and 2y is the same as 2 times 36, which means this angle is also equal to 72 degrees. If I know two angles, I can find the third one. I take 51 plus 72, add them up, and I get 123. Then I subtract 123 from 180, and I get 57 degrees. So x equals 57. Okay, let's look at B. Well, this triangle, all the variables are x, so I know that when I add all three angles up, they're going to equal 180 degrees. So 4x minus 8 plus 6x plus 14 plus 2x plus 18 equals 180 degrees. Combine like terms, that's going to be 12x, 18, 14 minus 8 plus 24 equals 180. Subtract 24 from both sides, and 12x equals 156. 156 divided by 12, we get 13, and that's my answer. Okay, and C, this one right here, we know that 134 and this angle form a linear pair, so 180 minus 134 equals 46. So this angle is 46. I also know that what I have, and there are multiple ways to solve this, this is just one example I'm giving you. X is an exterior angle, and remember it's equal to the sum of the two remote interior angles. So x equals 46 plus 103, which is 149. Okay, so let's go ahead and redraw this triangle. We're talking about medians here. So we have BE. We can see BE is right here. We need to find the length of GE and BG, both of those segments. Now remember, the longer segment is twice as long as the shorter segment. But the shorter segment basically is 1/3 of the entire segment. So in order to do this, the whole length is 21. We're going to take 21 and we're going to find BG, this segment right here, by multiplying 21 times 1/3, which would be the same as dividing 21 by 3. That means BG is 7. Now remember, the longer side is twice as long, so it's 14. Do 7 and 14 add up to 21? If they do, we know we're correct. They do, so yes. Okay, this one, kind of a lengthy problem. We're going to find the midpoint. We're given 2 points. We're going to find the midpoint, the distance, the slope, and this equation in slope-intercept form. Let's start with the midpoint. Here are my 2 points, 7, 2, and 1, 4. So let's get some working area here. The midpoint is where we take the x's and we add them. 7 plus 1 divided by 2. Take the y's and add them. 2 plus 4 divided by 2. 7 plus 1 is 8 over 2. 6 plus 4, or 2 plus 4 is 6 over 2. Simplify that, and we end up with 4 over 4, 3. So, my midpoint is 4, 3. Now we're going to find the distance of these 2 points. So, we're still using those same points, 7, 2, and 1, 4. we're going to say 7 minus 1 squared plus 2 minus 4 squared. 7 minus 1 is 6 squared. 2 minus 4 is negative 2 squared. 6 squared is 36, plus negative 2 squared is 4. We end up with radical 40, which simplifies to 4 times 10, which 4 is a perfect square, so we get 2 radical 10 as my distance. Next, we're going to find the slope. And remember, the slope is found by subtracting the y's on top, the x's on bottom. So on top, we're going to say 4 minus 2 over 1 minus 7. 4 minus 2 is 2. 1 minus 7 is negative 6. That simplifies to negative 1/3. That's my slope. Next, we're going to write this equation in point slope. In point slope, we're going to pick one point out. I'll pick the smallest point. Let's go ahead and pick this one. So we're going to say y minus the y coordinate, which is the 4, equals my slope, negative 1/3, times x minus my x coordinate, which was 1. Okay, we're going to distribute negative 1/3 x. Negative 1/3 times negative 1 becomes positive 1/3. We're going to add 4 to both sides, and 1/3 plus 4, don't forget my x, left that out, becomes 4 1/3. That is my equation in slope-intercept form. That would be the answer to number 4. Okay, 28. Again, this one right here, A, we're going to take our missing side, add 117, add that to 19, 136, subtract that from 180, and that's my missing angle. We're going to do that here, except this one is different. The exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two interior remote. So 23 plus 19 equals x. My answer is 42. Okay, this one, couple different ways of going about solving it. If this angle right here is 134, it's a linear pair with this angle inside the triangle. So 180 minus 134 equals 46. This is 46 degrees. Exterior angle is x is equal to the sum of the two remote interior. So 83 plus 46 is going to be equal to x. 129. My answer. Okay, D. Notice that we have 90 degrees. They add up to 180 degrees, but 90 is half of that, which means these two angles are going to add up to equal 90. So 3x plus 2x minus 8 equals 90. 5x minus 8 equals 90. 5x equals 98 because we added 8 to both sides, and we are going to end up with a fraction. And in this case, it ends up equaling 19 3/5 when we simplify that fraction right there. Okay, looking at E. On E, we have the same situation. We're going to add the two sides and two angles. Subtract them from 180 to find the missing angle. 23 plus 19 is 42. Take 180, subtract 42 from that, and we end up with 138. And right here, if we have 134, we know that the... You're fine, Davey. The other angle right here is a linear pair. 180 minus 134 is 46 degrees. Which means this exterior angle is equal to the sum of the two remote interior. So x is equal to 49 plus 46, which is 95. Right here, same situation, remote exterior equal to the sum of the two remote interiors, so 89 plus 30 is 119. Here, these are all going to add up to equal 180 degrees. So 5x plus 7x minus 6 plus 3x minus 9 equals 180. Combine like terms. 15x minus 8. Oh wait, no. What would that be? Negative 9, negative 6, negative 15 equals 180. Add 15 to both sides. And we get 15x equals 195, which if we divide by 15, x equals 13, which is what we're looking for. Last page, we have to be able to identify the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. Sorry about that. So this segment, how can I get rid of that? I can't. This segment, here we go. This segment is opposite the right angle. I'll draw that over there. That was the right angle. So xy is the hypotenuse because it's opposite the right angle. Opposite angle y would be xz. And the measure of x plus y, these two angles would add up to equal 90 degrees since this angle is 90. Okay, and the last question. Okay, we're looking for the measure of angle 1. That's simple enough because 66 plus 37, add those together. When we do, we get 103. That means that angle 1 is 180 minus 103, which is 77. So angle 1 is 77. Since it's 77, it's also the exterior angle of both of those triangles. So 77, that angle, is equal to the sum of these two angles. So what we can do is subtract 41 from 77 to find out what angle 2 is. And we get 36. We can do the same thing here. This plus angle 3 equals 77. So we can take 77 and subtract 47, which gives us 30 as our solution. Those are your answers. All right, hope this helps.